So picture this. You're with someone who checks every box on paper. They look great on paper. The chemistry's there, the conversations flow, but something still feels off. You can't quite explain it, but the overwhelming feeling is that you don't feel safe. You start second guessing yourself, and maybe you start even pulling back a little bit. Or maybe you just got so many what ifs in your mind. There's so much doubt that creeps in. And trust me, we've all been there. That uneasiness isn't always about compatibility. Often it's about emotional nourishment, or should I say the lack of it. And in astrology, that's ruled by your moon sign, the part of you that craves security, comfort, and emotional intimacy. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about the moon sign in your natal chart and what it says about your emotional needs in relationships. So if you want to know more, stick around. You definitely don't want to miss this. Hello, my loves. As always, I hope that this video finds you well and in excellent spirits. If this is our first time meeting, hi, hello, and welcome. My name is Mel. I'm a professional astrologer and sound therapist, and I'm the founder of Divine Feminine Works, where I help people unlock their divinity and discover their magic. So if you're new around here, welcome. And as always, if you are returning, welcome back. So today's video is all about the moon in your natal chart and what it means for your emotional well-being in relationships. Now, this may be something that we don't necessarily think about or are conscious of all the time because often we're kind of really concerned about the tangible parts of relationships, whether it's how the person looks on paper, how they look with us, how we look on Instagram with our matching PJs, how much money they have, do they have a BBL? I could go on and on about the things that we tend to focus on when it comes to relationships. But safety and security is probably the most important thing, or one of the most important things when it comes to a successful relationship. And of course, your natal chart has the answer to that, which is your moon sign. So, your moon sign will tell you about your emotional well being, what you need to feel emotionally well. And when you know that, you can align yourself with people and situations that foster that emotional wellness, as opposed to trying to make people fit into a category that they may not be equipped for or that they may not be appropriate for. All right, so without further ado, let's jump right in. All right, so of course, to begin, I'd like you to think about and meditate on this core idea. The moon shows what you need to feel emotionally safe, how you process feelings, nurture others, and seek comfort. It's also how you desire to be nurtured as well. Your moon sign can also speak to your inner child, your instincts, and your emotional language. Now, relationships are so emotional, right? They evoke emotions within us. And if you're not clear on what you need to feel emotionally well, this is when things can go haywire in relationships or when you can't distinguish whether there is a compatibility between you and someone else based on your moon signs or based on your emotional needs, right? Whether you're aligned or you're not. All right. So the purpose of this video is to help you understand you so that you can understand what you need emotionally in relationships. So of course, we're going to start at the very top first level, which is the moon by sign and element. Okay. And so this represents your emotional expression style. So first, of course, we begin with the fire signs. So let's say you've got your moon in either Aries, Leo, or Sagittarius. Okay. This is passionate and expressive. Okay. You guys are passionate and expressive. You need excitement, admiration, and honesty. Okay. I love to think of moon fire signs as constantly needing stimulation, like needing to feel something all the time, needing spice, needing excitement, but also needing honesty. One thing I love about fire signs generally, no matter what planet you have in a fire sign, it's very blunt and direct. So even though fire sign moons, they want spark and fire and excitement, they also want honesty. Do not beat around the bush. Say what you need to say, and you better say it with your chest too. All right. So now let's say you've got your moon in an earth sign, which is Taurus, Virgo, or Capricorn. So you guys are grounded and dependable. You guys need stability, consistency, and tangible gestures of love. It's like, don't tell me you love me, show me you love me. Whatever I need to feel good, you need to demonstrate that to me in a tangible sort of way. So if you've got your moon in an earth sign and you're with someone that, let's say, has their moon in an air sign, they could be telling you that they love you all day, but unless you feel it, unless they show it to you, either via acts of service or through gifts or something that makes you feel that that love is grounded and real, that could be a mismatch. And that could be something that hinders your relationship from moving forward successfully. So that's just something to think about. Okay. Next, let's say you have your moon in an air sign, which is Gemini, Libra, or Aquarius. So you guys are rational and communicative. You guys need space, heavy on the space, conversation, and intellectual stimulation. So I want you to notice something, especially if you're watching the series in succession. So let's say you've watched the Venus video already and you've watched the Mars video. The themes, depending on the element, are the same. Whether you have Venus, Mars, or the moon in an air sign, intellectual stimulation is a thing for you. It's something that you really need, something that, and when we're talking about the moon specifically, it is a need, an emotional need. You also need communication. Perhaps you are with, let's say you've got your moon in um, an air sign, right? And you're with someone who has their moon in an earth sign. Earth sign moons can sometimes be very stoic. Even though they want to feel your love in a grounded sort of way, they may not talk the most, right? They could be very stoic, very pragmatic, even. Yet you are someone who needs to hear, I love you all the time. You need someone who talks, you need someone who expresses themselves, someone who exercises their throat chakra. And maybe that's not them. And again, this is the one thing that I want to pinpoint throughout this series. I hate thinking about it in terms of, okay, either you're compatible or you're not compatible. Using the example I just gave before, or I'm still using, you've got your moon in an air sign, they've got their moon in a water sign. You're expressive, they're stoic. It doesn't mean that you're incompatible. It just means that there's two different energies at play. Compatibility is all about intention. But that intention has to be informed intention. Like, I have to understand about myself that, let's say, I need expression, I need communication. You need to understand about yourself that you are stoic, but yet you need physical validation. And we decide and are intentional together to work with those energies. I never, at least as it is coming from me and as I teach, I will never say, oh, you're just incompatible and then that's it. I will tell you that these energies may be challenging to work with, but you can always overcome them if you know what they are and if you're willing to do the work to overcome them. So that's just something that I want to put out there off rip because you will have people just say, oh, well, they're incompatible. You know, a lot of pop astrology, and no shade to pop astrology because that's pretty much where we all start, right? Myself included. It'll just blatantly label signs as compatible or incompatible. Meanwhile, you don't know whether the signs they're talking about are sun signs, Venus signs, Mars signs. It's just this really blanket kind of generalization that could be true or could not be true. But over here at Divine Feminine Works, we're not, this isn't pop astrology, in case you haven't realized that already, but it's more so about knowing better and doing better. So nothing is ever an instant yes or a hard no. It's this is what it is. You decide how you work with it. So just wanted to put that out there. And then finally, we move on to water moon. So this is if you have your moon in Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces, you're sensitive and intuitive. For you, you need depth, emotional attunement, and empathy. If the moon is the planet, well, technically the moon is not a planet, it's known as a luminary. If the moon as a luminary governs emotions, then water moons, so whether you have your moon in Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces, you guys are the emotional ones. You need emotions, you need love, you need emotional nourishment. And your intuition and your feelings play a very big role in your emotional life and in your relationships. All right. So that was level one. So now let's move on to the next level underneath, which is level two. And this is the moon by house placement. Okay. And this is where you seek comfort and security. So remember, the houses in your natal chart denote the different areas of life. So wherever the moon is placed in your natal chart, shows what area of life where you need emotional security. So, say you've got your moon in the first house, you wear your heart on your sleeve, okay? And that's putting it lightly. Emotional honesty defines your identity. You are an emotional person if you have your moon in the first house. And I don't want you to think that that's a bad thing. You just lead with emotions. You lead with your feelings, you lead with your intuition, and that's sort of how people recognize you as well. That's how you show up, and that's how people identify you as well. Let's say you've got your moon in the fourth house. This denotes strong home, family, and emotional roots. Family is everything for you. Your emotional nourishment, how you feel good, how you feel whole, how you feel safe and secure has a lot to do with home, family, your ancestry, um, and sort of your immediate family, right? That's how you feel emotionally nourished, or I should say, that's where you feel emotionally nourished. Let's say you have your moon in the fifth house. Creativity, play, and joy are very much a part of your emotional, energetic signature. You have to have fun. You have to feel good. Life has to feel like a game and you play. You guys are very much led by your inner child. And unless you let your inner child live, whether we're talking about relationships in general or just life in general, you will feel stifled in life. So, word to the wise with that. Next, let's say you've got your moon in the seventh house. Partnership and mutual care is how you feel emotionally satisfied and cared for. Your emotional well being will always, let me not say always, but will more than likely come through partnership. And partnership meaning committed partnerships, people who are here for the long run. And then let's say you've got, your moon in the 10th house. Recognition and purpose through achievement are how you feel emotionally well. Your emotions are very much tied to what you do and how you are recognized, and accolades and respect and a good reputation is how you feel emotionally satisfied, among other things. All right. So that was level two. So now let's take it a level further down and let's talk about level three, which are moon aspects. So this is when the moon in your natal chart is making aspects to other planets. Now, if you are new around here and you're new to astrology, I'm going to put a reference video in the description box below that talks about aspects and what they are. Aspects is basically the relationship between planets in your natal chart. So if you want to learn more for the first time, or if you want a refresher, that video will be linked in the description box below. Okay. And so moon aspects in your natal chart, they denote your emotional habits in love. Okay, so let's take the moon and Venus. Let's say you have moon aspecting Venus in some sort of way in your natal chart. Okay, this denotes gentle, affectionate, and harmonious emotional flow. Now, within astrology, the moon and Venus are the feminine planets. I believe they're the only two feminine planets. So if you have moon and Venus in aspect to each other in your natal chart, this is ultra feminine. It's ultra emotional. It's very much living on the inside. And what I mean by that is your inner world is a priority for you, or it's very much emphasized for you in this lifetime, but it fosters harmony, it fosters emotional flow, and it fosters receptivity. That's important to understand, especially in the realm of relationships, because Venus and the moon together, you are someone who, or receiving is a big deal for you, or it's very much emphasized for you. And if you're in a relationship where you're either not receiving or you're not comfortable receiving or don't know how to receive, this is when things can go left. So, understanding, especially if you have moon and Venus aspects, that receiving is a big thing for you is really half the battle, in my honest opinion. Now, let's say you've got moon or your moon in aspect to Mars. This is emotional intensity and passion. And this can often swing between closeness and conflict. Okay. This reminds me, so Moon and Mars aspects in a natal chart, it really reminds me of people who perhaps make up to break up often, people who thrive on conflict, people who maybe even get turned on by conflict in relationships. There are people like that, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's just how they are designed, and that's how they thrive, right? But it does foster passion in a very big way. Like your overwhelming emotion is passion. And if you're in a relationship where that passion becomes muted, it could almost feel like someone is constantly putting out your fire. That can be a problem if you're not able to express that passion. And not even that, expressing that passion and having it being received well is often a thing for you. So keep that in mind. Next, let's say you've got Moon and Saturn in aspect to each other in your natal chart. This denotes deep loyalty, but guarded vulnerability. Now, remember how I was talking about before about how Moon and Earth signs can be very stoic. When you put the Moon and Saturn together, you do get a lot of stoicism. You do get a lot of groundedness, reliability, and stability. Those things help you feel good, but it's definitely kind of the antithesis to passion. Everything that Mars and the moon is, the moon and Saturn isn't. It's more dependable, reliable, as opposed to passionate and emotional. And then finally, let's say you've got the moon in aspect to Neptune in your natal chart. This is very idealistic, intuitive, and emotionally porous. I want you to think of this as like being an emotional sponge. You soak up everything around you. However, this particular configuration, and again, this is the moon in aspect to Neptune, it needs clear boundaries. You can get lost in the sauce in terms of other people's emotions, other people's bullshit, right? You're carrying things that aren't yours, especially emotions that aren't yours, because you're just soaking everything in. So, although you can be very emotional, intuitive, nurturing, and very healing, even, this configuration definitely speaks to healing of the emotional kind. But without clear boundaries, you could lose yourself entirely. Okay, so word to the wise with that one. So your moon tells the truth about what you need, even when your mind disagrees. When you understand it, you stop chasing emotional compatibility by logic and start creating it through feeling. Logic has its place, but emotions do too. And sometimes I think, especially women get the reputation of being emotional, and it's often given this negative connotation. You need both. Life is an everlasting game of balance. And as much as we need logic, we need emotion too. When you are emotionally stifled, your relationships are the first thing to suffer. That's when people become punching bags, doormats, bullies, victims, victimizers. All of those kind of things stem from being emotionally stifled. Not only not understanding your emotions, but not being able to express them in the way that you need to, and also not being able to feel them and receive them. It takes both. And the moon sign is the best place to start to learn to understand this. So, particularly with this video, I want you to share the fuck out of this video. I want you to share it far and wide because people really need this is the first step. We're very familiar with Venus energy. We're also very familiar with Mars. The moon, sometimes not so much because the moon, it can be complex. Not only can it be complex, there's a lot of wounding there. And when people start to feel emotions that are too much, that are hurtful, what do? They shut down. But you need to understand. And when you understand yourself, you do better for yourself. All right. So now let's take a moment for reflection and a little bit of self inquiry. Right. So here is your reflection for today. What does your moon sign say about how you need to be cared for? And are you allowing anyone, including yourself, to meet those needs? I want you to screenshot this. I want you to come back to this. I want you to journal about it. And I want you to really reflect on this. Emotional needs are super important. Are yours being met? And if so, how? If you want to explore how your moon energy blends with your Venus and your Mars energy, basically to put together your full love blueprint, take the free seduction style quiz. The link is in the description box below. It's a fun little quiz so you can understand your particular seduction style. All right. And then join us inside Cosmic Collective, where we dive deeper every week during Cosmic Chemistry Fridays. This week, we'll be unpacking what your moon really needs to feel safe in love, as well as everything we discussed about Venus and Mars as well. It's a great space to learn more, get extra content, and to even ask questions, even about your own natal chart. So if that interests you, the link is in the description box below. All right. It's $11 per month, but you get a 2-week free trial. So you get to figure out if you like it or not. But I think you will. So definitely check that out. All right, my loves. So that's pretty much all I've got for you for this video on the moon and what it can tell you about your emotional needs in relationships. All right. I sincerely hope that you were able to get at least one important piece of information that you can use to help improve your relationships. All right. So join me tomorrow where we'll discuss how your rising sign shapes not only attraction, but also first impressions. Definitely don't want to miss that one. All right, my loves. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in my next video. Take care.